and just advice from other people. And I finally decided to cave in and do some because I know the demand is out there for people to watch them because they're highly entertaining. And so I thought I would give my stab at doing top 5, top 10 type videos and see if you guys like them. And so my ultimate plan is to actually create 2 channels, with this channel specifically focusing on theories and discussions, and then having a completely separate channel where I post top 5, top 10 videos. But before I really, go into that, I would first like to do them on my channel and see what the reception for them is. So without further ado, let's get into the top 5 most broken or hacks devil fruits that exist in the world of One Piece. And when I say hacks devil fruit, I don't mean like a generally strong devil fruit given to a character which really deserves that kind of devil fruit. For instance, Whitebeard having the Guruguru no Mi or the Earthquake fruit is a ridiculously strong devil fruit that can be considered hacks. However, he was a legend of the world of One Piece. For him to have an overpowered devil fruit makes sense. I want to focus on characters that aren't really world renowned for their powers, yet their devil fruits honestly give them abilities which should make them a lot stronger than they actually are, but they really fail to meet up to the hype that their devil fruit potentially provides. So another name for this video could be top 5 weakest characters with overpowered devil fruits. And so let's get into this, starting with number 5, Bartholomew Kuma. Now this was the hardest position on the list to fill. Honestly, this would have been better as a top 4 list, but I decided to include Kuma in this list of most overpowered devil fruits given to characters who are not really deserving of them. Mainly because, despite the fact that Kuma is the Shishibukai, and he is renowned in the world for his strength, when considering the potential of his devil fruit in a fight, honestly, I think that Kuma was capable of so much more. But given what he has achieved, he could go no higher than number 5 on this list. And so Kuma has the Paw fruit, which makes him a paw human capable of repelling anything that he touches. And this devil fruit, guys, is straight up broken. The sheer force that Kuma is able to create with his repelling is just amazing. He actually sent the Straw Hats flying across the world using his devil fruit abilities. Think about a potential battle between Kuma and the Yonko, and imagine them trying to go up against him. I really can't see any easy way to defend against Kuma's paw fruit, outside of the possibility that Haki allows somebody to defend themselves against the devil fruit ability. But regardless, I think that if Kuma touched a Yonko with his paw fruit, and then that Yonko wasn't using Haki specifically to, in some way stop that devil fruit ability, just like the Straw Hats, they would also get sent flying across the world if Kuma desired it. And not only can Kuma repel other things, but he can also repel himself, which allows him to have crazy stupid speed, kind of like instant transmission from Dragon Ball Z. And given his ability to use this power and be pinpoint precise as to where exactly he wants to send somebody or himself, this essentially makes him the fastest character in the world of One Piece. But of course, as Kuma's fighting someone, he's not just going to want to repel them, he would actually want to defeat them and or damage them. And his devil fruit is also capable of doing this as well. Kuma's Ursa shock technique, which basically is he touches air, and then he condenses that air into a paw of just pure destruction of repelling force. And he uses this during the Marineford arc to essentially defeat Oars Jr. in one hit. And while I understand this technique is slow, it took Kuma a little while to gather up the repelling force necessary to take on Oars. And then as well, this little bubble of air took some time to actually travel and hit Oars. And so, honestly, if there had been a faster character, they could have easily avoided the attack. I still think that, given that Kuma can essentially create a limitless number of these, and then could also potentially change the speeds and or power in which he uses per Ursa Shock, I still think it is an incredibly overpowered and destructive technique. And when you're talking about devil fruits in the world of One Piece, you have to keep in mind plot. And so, for the purposes of the story, Oda can make devil fruit stronger or weaker. And so while the Ursa Shock technique pales in comparison to Whitebeard's Gurgro no Mi and the earthquakes that he's able to produce using that fruit. I personally believe that if Oda wanted to, and he gave this devil fruit to another character, this same technique could be used to a similar effect as the earthquake fruit, just from a sheer destructive standpoint. The potential for this devil fruit, I believe, is pretty much unlimited. One touch and an enemy is sent flying. Pretty much an impenetrable defense if he so uses his devil fruit in that way. It also makes him pretty much the fastest character in the world of One Piece. And also has quite a bit of destructive capabilities that I believe has a lot more potential than meets the eye. And I don't even want to get into the possibility that Kuma hasn't awakened his fruit already. And if he did so, what would that actually do to his devil fruit? How would that make him stronger? So with this being said, I think that Kuma is pretty underwhelming considering how overpowered and broken his devil fruit ability is. And so that's why he's number 5 on this list. But now let's get into number 4, Khalifa of CP9. Now I don't think Khalifa's devil fruit is stronger than Kuma's, but I think that Khalifa is so much weaker than Kuma that she had to go higher on this list given the potential of her devil fruit. And who would have thought that Khalifa with the soap devil fruit, that devil fruit would be overpowered, but I honestly believe that it is. And it's really only one property of this soap that makes it so strong. And it's the fact that Khalifa, after 1 day of having the devil fruit, in fact less than 1 day, a few hours, she learned that the soap that she produces from her devil fruit has the ability to take away the energy of her opponent. And in addition to this, that it also makes it so that they cannot stand or do anything on any limb that has been cleaned with her soap. And so this is one of these devil fruits that I imagine if it were given to an overpowered character who does not have a devil fruit, like for instance Garp or Rayleigh, that this devil fruit would make them just so much stronger. It seems that the fight versus the top tiers mainly relies on someone's mastery of hockey. But still, given the opening and the ability to use the soap bubbles against your opponent to essentially drain their energy, would provide you with an automatic win if you could pretty much match up head-to-head with anyone with just your base fighting strength and hockey alone. And so honestly, I believe that this is one of these devil fruits that is 2 hacks for any strong character to possess. Because if any strong character had this devil fruit, they would really never lose if given the opportunity to use their devil fruit. But fortunately for the Straw Hats, Khalifa was not a strong character, and it didn't take much to defeat her. And therein lies the reason that she's on this list. A horribly weak character with a potentially overpowered devil fruit. But that leads us to number 3 on this list. And number 3 is Perona. And so Perona is a devil fruit user with the Horo no Mi, which is essentially a ghost devil fruit. Using this devil fruit, Perona is able to create different types of ghosts which are immune to physical attacks, all of which seem to have different sort of abilities. And the kinds of ghosts that really make her devil fruit overpowered in hacks are what she calls the negative hollows. And these hollows, when they go through the body of an enemy, basically take away their will to live. And so this is on the list for the same reason as number 4, Khalifa, which is that using this technique, it could potentially be a one-hit KO in the fight in one decisive moment if somebody allows the devil fruit ability to hit them. The only exception to this rule is that if somebody was originally very negative and or pessimistic like Usopp, then they would be immune to the negative hollows effects. But given that almost all the strong characters in the world of One Piece are not like Usopp, then this devil fruit would literally affect everyone else. And so obviously it's possible that Haki is able to defend against the effects of the negative hollow, but still I believe that given to a fighter who doesn't rely on their devil fruit that is top tier just based on their hockey and strength alone, this devil fruit would give them a serious advantage over most fighters if given the opportunity to use it. And so the reason why I included this as number 3 ahead of Khalifa's soap devil fruit, despite the fact that they are very similar in the element that makes them hacks, I just think that Perona's ghost devil fruit has just so many more uses than the soap devil fruit, which is why I included it higher on the list. She can actually also use the ghost to gather intel, and then additionally, since the ghosts all have different types and each type type has a different ability, there's the possibility that, given a more adept Devil Fruit user, they might be able to use or create different kinds of ghosts, which also have additional hacks effects that Oda could create if he wanted to. But again, fortunately for the Straw Hats, Perona was not a very strong character, and outside of the potentially hacks abilities her Devil Fruit gave her, she really didn't have anything else to offer to a fight from her own standpoint, and for that reason, she's number 3 on this list. But now let's get into number 2, Boa Hancock. And so Boa Hancock has the Love Fruit, and while seemingly innocent, it is actually probably a Devil Fruit which Oda should have never created in the first place, outside of even number 1 on this list, just because Boa Hancock is a strong character. She's a Shishibukai, and her powers alone are too great for her to be allowed to fight in the story appropriately. And the reason for this is that, just like Medusa, Boa Hancock is able to turn into stone those who have feelings of lust for her. And this turns out to be everybody in the world of One Piece, except for Monkey D. Luffy. And so the reason why I decided to include Boa as number 2 on this list, over number 3 and number 4, which also have very hacks abilities with their Devil Fruits, mainly because we have direct evidence, at least it seems like evidence, that Haki is not very effective in defending against her Devil Fruit abilities. All Marine Vice Admirals have the ability to use Haki. All forms of Haki outside of Conqueror's Haki. And so Vice Admiral Momonga actually faced off against Boa Hancock briefly during the Amazon Lily arc. And so Boa was able to turn his entire crew into stone. And so Momonga didn't use Haki to defend against her technique, and I assumed that he would have if it was possible and if he knew that that would defend against the ability. Instead, he actually had to stab himself to stop his feeling of lust towards her, and that was his way of defending against her ability, not Haki. And so while this potentially provides a way out for those who are trying to face off against Boa and prevent themselves from being turned into stone, still, if you have to stab yourself repeatedly in order to prevent yourself from being turned into stone and essentially defeated by her, then that's an automatic plus for whoever has the Love Fruit. And given that Boa Hancock is the most beautiful woman in the world, who everyone is attracted to, she can turn everyone into stone, I honestly believe this Devil Fruit should have never been created in the first place, and that's why it's number 2 on this list. But now let's get into number 1. And before I get into number 1, there are some honorable mentions, which is every single Logia Devil Fruit user who has not mastered Haki. And so it's commonly noted that Logia Devil Fruits, overconfident ones, who haven't mastered Haki, will be able to beat any fodder tier character, but then just get destroyed in the New World, and that's exactly what we saw with many characters, including Caribou, who has this Swamp Logia Devil Fruit. But given that we know that they can be hit if they're facing off against somebody with Haki, since these abilities don't provide them with an automatic win, like many of these other abilities that I've brought up in this list, then I decided to not include them in the top 5, but they're definitely in the top 10. But now, to number 1, Sugar. And Sugar's ability is straight up stupid. Sugar has the Hobby no Mi, which allows her to transform anything she touches into a toy, which is then afterwards underneath her control if the proper words are spoken and a pact is formed. Additionally, those people that she turns into toys are forever forgotten by everyone in the world, including herself. And then last but not least, once you eat the Hobby no Mi, your age is forever halted. So essentially, the person who eats this fruit would be immortal, because once they eat the fruit, they stay that age forever. I have no words to describe just how awfully stupidly overpowered this Devil Fruit could potentially be if given to an actually strong character. I honestly believe, given what we know about the Devil Fruit through the story of One Piece, that this Devil Fruit could have been potentially used as the Devil Fruit to rule over the world. You're essentially immortal. Anyone who disagrees with you, you can turn into a toy and make into your slave. And then additionally, no one would bat an eye about it because everyone has forgotten that that person ever existed in the first place. All with the simple touch. But yeah, guys, I could talk forever about how stupid I think this Devil Fruit is. It should have never been created. But I'll refrain from it because I think everyone understands just based on what I've already said. It's very obvious Sugar's Devil Fruit is retardedly broken and hacks and should never have existed, and that's why she's and her devil fruit is number 1 on this list. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if I should have included a character, and then mention it in the comment section. And also tell me if you like this video. Give me some feedback as to whether you like it, you would suggest any changes, this or that. This is my first attempt at a top X list, and so obviously improvements can be made. Just let me know. Like the video if you enjoyed the video. I'd appreciate it if you subscribed, and as always, dudes, have a wonderful day.